Dragman to the rescue. Steven Appleby's superhero wears an evening gown and a blonde wig while soaring over London, righting wrongs and saving the odd life. His alter ego, a husband, dad and passport worker, quite the contrast. Dragman was named Graphic Novel of the Year by The Guardian newspaper in 2020 and received the Special Jury Prize at Angoulême's Comics Festival here in France this year. It's available in French translation, published by De Noël. Its author and illustrator joins us now to tell us more. Steven Appleby, thanks so much for joining us.
It's a pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Now, Dragman is a very funny and quite a dark take on the superhero genre. And as an artist, your comic strips and illustrations focus on the weird and wonderful, the banal and the absurd parts of life. So why did you choose a superhero for your first long-form book?
Oh, well, it's because I'd been a secret transvestite for ever since I discovered the idea of it. And when I was about 19, and so I had a secret life, and in my Guardian comic strip, I created the character Dragman kind of as a way of expressing my secret life in a playful way that no one would understand. No one would realize it was true. And then I realized, superheroes have a secret identity, like Batman and Bruce Wayne or whatever, and part-time trans women like I was then, maybe one day a week. I'm a man part of the time, of dressing as a trans woman the rest of the time. And I thought it's a perfect metaphor. And I thought, there's more. I can do more for this than just a little strip. And I started thinking about a book.
Let's get a look inside Steven Appleby's graphic novel, Dragman.
August Crimp has a secret life. When he puts on a dress, he can fly. But terrified of ridicule and rejection, he tells no one, not even his wife. Until one day, a little girl falls from the rooftop cafe at the art museum, and August must fly to save her. Watched by hundreds of people. And August Crimp's life is never the same again.
Now, as we see there, August Crimp has superpowers. He can fly when he puts on women's clothing. Yeah. And you've been wearing women's clothing for many years now. I wondered if you could think back to that first time that you put it on. How did your feelings compare to his?
Oh, gosh. Well, it was so exciting. And I hadn't thought to do it until I, like August Crimp, found a stocking down the back of a sofa and put it on. And it was just sort of transformative. The idea that I'd had fantasies of waking up transformed into a girl, but then I suddenly realized on that occasion that I could dress that way, and it was amazing, but it was also the beginning of feeling full of shame and fear that friends or anyone might discover this secret, but then the compulsion to keep on doing that. And I kind of never imagined there would be a time like there is now when it's very possible for people to be the person they want to be, and which is kind of a wonderful time.
Indeed. Now, the world you create in Dragman seems both fantastical and very familiar for those of us who know the London landscape.
Yeah.
But it does seem to be a soulless society. There's a cynical, mercenary climate, and people are literally sometimes forced to sell their souls. Who or what are you taking aim at here in the so-called real world?
I'm taking aim at unfairness, basically. I mean, it seems to me that the sort of capitalist system on a small level works fine, when you have a sort of shopkeeper owning a shop and making, but once it gets giant sized, Amazon, Uber and so on, I'm not taking aim at any specific thing, though. I'm taking aim at unfairness. I just think the world should be a much fairer place, really. And the soul trading thing seemed an exaggeration that rang true somehow.
And your superheroes are fighting against that. Now, another superhero who lives a double life is a certain Mr. Clark Kent. His son, John Kent, is the star of an upcoming album from DC Comics, and the publisher has revealed that John will have a romantic relationship with another young man. They say he's experimenting with his sexuality. Catherine Viette has more.
Is it a bird, a plane? No, it's the first bisexual Superman. DC Comics' New Adventures follow John Kent, the son of Superman and Lois Lane. Like his father, Kent also falls for a reporter, this time a male friend named Jay Nakamura. They'll share a kiss in issue 5. Superman writer Tom Taylor said he didn't want this to become a missed opportunity.
Yeah, look, it's not a gimmick. We didn't want this to be DC Comics creates new queer Superman. We want this to be Superman finds himself, becomes Superman, and then comes out. And I think there's a really important distinction there.
The news took social media by storm. Many, like actor Anthony Rapp, applauding the decision.
I've been a comic book geek since pretty much the time I could first read. This news about Superman makes my queer heart glad, knowing the positive impact it will have on so many young folks today and in the future.
Superman first appeared in comics in 1938, and he's arguably America's most famous superhero. Now his son is breaking new ground, and not just with his sexuality. John Kent fights climate change, tackles social justice issues, and is on the front lines of the refugee crisis. It's part of DC Comics' efforts to have their characters reflect today's world.
So, Stephen, what do you think of this 21st century update?
I think it's really great. I mean, I only heard about it recently myself, but I think, I was talking about feeling ashamed and stuff myself, and it would have been so different if there had been characters like that when I was 19, 20, Yeah, I think sometimes that kind of thing can come across as a sort of box-ticking gimmick, but in this case, looking at the images, it just felt really good, actually. I thought it was really good.
Seems to be very naturally done. Now,
Yeah.
the move from DC Comics comes as part of their desire. They say they want to better reflect the contemporary world, how it is. And gender identity is a huge subject for debate at the moment. A lot of interest is focused on trans rights, trans identity. People are airing some very heated opinions at times, especially on things like language, pronouns. You write on social media that your preferred pronouns are she, her, him, whatever.
Yeah.
What do you think about that debate?
Oh, gosh. I totally understand that people want to be who they feel they are, and I think that's right, that people should be allowed to be who they are so long as it doesn't hurt anyone else. And I think if the pronouns that go along with that should be used as much as possible, but I am determined not to be offended if the pronouns are wrong. And I think while there's this kind of transition period, that people will get it wrong, and they won't always be being horrible by getting it wrong. And I also would say to people who are afraid of getting pronouns wrong to just ask, what is the preferred pronoun? I mean, sometimes it's quite hard to tell if someone is trans or gender neutral or gender queer or whatever the things are. So to ask, I think, is what has to be done.
Now, your drawings, as we said, are familiar to readers of The Guardian, The Times, Punch and The Observer, and there's always a philosophical feel to the subject matter. Even the superheroes in Dragman have existential worries. Would you say that making art is an antidote for you, for those sort of feelings?
Well, gosh. For me, making art is sort of about the world that I see. It's always been sort of looking at the world and thinking about it and kind of commenting on it from a surprising angle, and that's partly to keep myself excited. I try and be surprising. I think I'm trying to kind of be playful with the world, really, which is getting harder as the world gets more and more serious and in trouble, if you know what I mean. I grew up in the 60s, and then it was very optimistic. Now it's very pessimistic, and I'm struggling to decide what to do next.
So we need art more than ever, perhaps. Well, we'll wrap up the show with a cultural tip you gave us, a German documentary called Trans, I Got Life. Now, this zooms in on 7 different people. What is it about this film that impressed you so much?
Well, the people they've chosen are just amazing. And, I watched it not sure what to expect, but every single person is fascinating and wonderful, and you kind of love them by the end of the film. And I just thought it was so kind of, what's the right word, positive and uplifting.
Yeah.
Uplifting. And true. It's really honest and uplifting. It was great.
Great. Well, that's one to catch. Thank you very much for the tip, Steven Appleby, and thank you very much for being with us today. We'll leave you with a preview of that film, Trans, I Got Life. Do remember you can get more arts and culture on our website and on our social media feeds. There's more news coming up just shortly here on France 24.
Is the fabric of male and female coming apart? Who knows?
In the future, stem cells create a new penis or something like this?
I think that's probably possible. But we're evolving.
Yes.
And the deconstructing gender, I think, is a part of evolution.